Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to be diving into a bunch of questions you guys submitted about the new Issues record. It's been 3 years since we released really any music besides Tapping Out, which is a new single off this upcoming record. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. The video for it dropped today actually. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and dive into some of these questions. I pulled questions from Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'm going to go ahead and dive into Instagram. Is it still full of interesting techie parts? Headspace was so technical yet catchy. Yes, definitely. That's kind of the whole foundation of what Issues is about. Basically, we take pop songs and we make them technical. We add riffs. With this record, I think we got better at playing together as opposed to playing like a ton of notes individually over top of each other. But yes, the record is definitely still technical. It's a little more sneaky. It's not quite so flashy as opposed to like a couple listens in, you're gonna be finding new things every time you listen. We really focus on songwriting more than anything on this record, and the technicality is kind of, again, I think it's inevitable with us. It's just kind of what comes out when we write. So that will never go away. Bands and artists that influence the album in general. I made a list whenever we were in the studio. I was doing a Q&A on the Issues Instagram, and I made a list and asked every band member 3 bands or artists that they were listening to at the moment. And so the list looks something like this. We're actually gonna make a playlist on Spotify in a couple days, so you guys can just like check out what that looks like for us. All 4 of us are extremely different as like people, as musicians, just as everything. So the playlist is literally just all over the place. But if we had to pick 3 bands for each member, I think the list looks something like this. Kalani, Frank Ocean, Loathe, Polyphia, Mr. Twin Sister, Cockatoo Twins, Meshuggah, Vola, Tierra Whack, Black, Anderson .Paak, 1975, Israel, and New Breed. So as you can tell, it's kind of just all over the place. We always want to be writing stuff that's innovative and that pushes the envelope. We're a weird band, we always have been. Again, like I don't think that's ever gonna change. But I think the best way to do that and the best way to write that music is to always be listening to new music and being inspired by like new players, new artists, see what everybody else is doing, and then not copy that, but just be inspired by it, and then translate that into your own art. And that's what we try to do. Is the album sort of like self-titled? Yes and no. I think it would be the natural progression of what would come after self-titled. Like our mentality is in the same place it was when we wrote self-titled. We were like 22, 23 when we wrote the first record. It ended up being like weird stuff, with choirs and tempo changes and like breakdowns over poppy singing, and it didn't have to be this certain thing, and we just wrote whatever came naturally. And we did the exact same thing with this record. We just wrote a lot more songs and spent a lot more time on it. About how often do AJ screams get incorporated into the songs? I knew somebody's gonna ask about this. So this record definitely has less screaming than the first 2. I don't think that should surprise anyone. Again, at the same time, it's not like we just set out to not scream at all. With this record, the writing process was very simple. We wrote as many songs as we possibly could. While writing those sections and those parts, all we did was think to ourselves, what would make this section the best section, this song the best song? And if screaming elevated the song, then there's screaming on the song. If it didn't elevate the song, or if it didn't make sense, then it's not there. So it's a very natural vibe. Yes, there's screaming. No, there's not as much as there has been in the past, but it feels way more cohesive and natural than it ever has. All we really wanted to do was write a record that wasn't forced and was just truly exactly what we wanted to write, and we were able to do that. How different was the writing process without Michael? Was it a better experience or harder? So, I want to preface everything I'm about to say with the fact that none of this is coming from a spiteful or hateful place. I got a lot of love for Michael. His new band is awesome, Wild Heart. Check him out if you haven't already. But I do want to be honest with you guys. And so, with the writing process for this record, it's not very different, honestly, because Michael was never a huge part of the writing process. Instrumentally, he really didn't ever step into that world, and vocally, usually him and Tyler work together, but a lot of the times Tyler ended up writing a lot of his parts as well, which again, there's nothing wrong with that. But as far as just being truthful with you, the writing process didn't really change at all going into this record. If anything, like I said before, we were really able to assess each song, and it made for a very natural, cohesive process and a really natural, cohesive album, which I don't think is something we've always nailed in the past. How many songs are on the record? So we started with 50 plus songs and slowly narrowed them down to 13. There was about 4 or 5 that didn't make the record that we almost literally killed each other over. But the final number is 13, and they're all pretty sick, honestly. How many songs am I going to absolute bop to? How many songs am I going to be in my feels to? Great question. With this record, we had a lot of songs to choose from, and we didn't want any filler. We carefully curated what I think is a really great mix of album tracks that are still great songs but necessary, and like banger singles. So there's a lot of stuff that's really deep and like really sad lyrically, and very honest, which is cool because I think Headspace kind of lacked that, honestly. But there's also songs that are ridiculous and very lighthearted and just make you feel good and kind of make you want to dance. This album is just really dynamic, and all the songs are gonna make you definitely feel something for sure. How heavy? I get this question so much, dude, and it's kind of confusing to us because it's just a weird question to ask. Like, obviously we're a heavy band. We're always gonna be a heavy band. Like, we love riffs, but we also love all other types of music as well. So that's why you have like pop songs with heavy riffs. But what makes more sense to me is to ask us if it's good. Because what if it's really heavy and it's not good? Like, who cares? Then you're not gonna listen to it anyway. So if you're asking if it's good, yes, it's good. Did you nail any first take, one takes while putting down your drum tracks? Probably not, honestly. I take forever to record. We all do. We're really annoying because we nitpick everything. There was a conversation like the third day of tracking, we were doing drums, and we worked with Howard Benson on this record. I think at this point, me and Sky are like yelling at each other over the placement of a kick by a 30-second note. And I think 30 minutes goes by. Benson looks at us and is like, guys, like this is stupid. Like, one kick is not gonna make or break a song. It's not gonna determine how many sales the record has. And I think AJ looked him like dead in his eyes and was like, yes, it will. And so we're super annoying, and we're always annoying. We've always been annoying. That's also why everything takes as long as it does for us, because we really nitpick everything. Literally one single kick placement by a 30-second note. But it's, you know, it's in the details. You gotta do it. Hey, this one's from my boy Connor. Did you use any setups other than your usual for any parts or songs? Anything weird? Going into this record tracking drums, I use pretty much the same setup I have at home. I use my SJC kit and the SJC Signature Snare, and it sounds awesome. I got a lot of use out of all my stacks, and also always thinking about the stereo image. Like, if you have headphones on, you know, you have left hi-hat over here, right hat over here. I have my stack in the middle. Using both hi-hats and being able to, once, you know, if you're listening with headphones, being able to hear things in certain spots, that's something I definitely am always taking into effect whenever I'm writing. I just want to create like really vibey parts, and I think the stacks oddly really help that with like accents and stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's very impactful. Ooh, is a good one. How weird does the album get using Tapping Out as a reference point, since it's the only thing we have heard thus far? I gotta be honest with you, Tapping Out is definitely the most straightforward song on the record. Our album's weird. We're a weird band. Like, that's a good thing. We used to be with a management team at one point that got onto me for making an Instagram post while we were making the record because I used the word weird. It's definitely our weirdest record we've ever made, but at the same time, it's the most accessible record we've ever made. So weird is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Like, Billie Eilish is weird. She's one of the biggest artists in the world right now. I've already said it, but I mean, with this record, it just is really dynamic. You're not gonna be bored. There's plenty of stuff for people who love the techie stuff. If you love just like pop bangers, there's plenty of that. If you're here for the heavy stuff, you're definitely gonna be happy. The whole album is tuned much lower than anything we've ever done. I don't know, that always just made me laugh, because it's like, if we were anything else, we wouldn't be Issues. Like, Issues is a weird band. If we wanted to be like some pop band or some like butt rock band, then we would just be that, which sounds awful, to be honest with you. But yeah, I mean, we are a weird band, and I think that's what our fans expect from us, which is cool, because that leaves us a lot of room, because weird doesn't really define anything. Was Ty Cord a part of the writing process for this new record? Yes. No, he's not in the band anymore, but he did write 7 or 8 songs with us and worked on production for pretty much the whole record besides a few songs. Ty is very much involved. He loves the record. I can't imagine Issues really existing without Ty being involved some way or another. At least I wouldn't want that, because Ty's great, and he's very unique, and he helps definitely craft the Issues sound. we got one from Terry Crews. Is the new Issues album gonna be returning to this super groovy jazz stuff? Honestly, it was my favorite aspect of Headspace. It's probably my favorite aspect of Headspace too, and the answer is yes, of course. There's more jazzy, groovy, heavy stuff on this record cohesively than there ever has been in the past. It's not just like, okay, this verse we're gonna do like the jazz guitar thing, and then the chorus will, you know, it's not that. It's way more cohesive, and it's all thought out. But yes, that's definitely more so a focal point on this record than probably any other record before. Biggest obstacle faced when making this record, and how did you all get through it? I'm gonna try to keep this one pretty light. I'm not gonna dive into anything too deep, but admittedly, yeah, it's really hard for us to make a record. It always has been. The only way an Issues record really gets made is if each person kind of runs in what direction they think musically the band should go in, and then we all kind of snap back in the middle in some compromise. That's how it's always worked. And usually that ends up with a great final product, honestly, as frustrating as it may be. But while we were writing the record, we were dealing with the Michael backlash, which we understood and, you know, we expected. But we figured the best way to go about it was just to keep our mouths shut and just work. And so that's what we did. When it came time to finally record the record, we were all insanely stressed. And I don't mean to make this sound any more dramatic than it is. Like, we get to make music with our friends for a living. So yes, of course, we're super fortunate. But it was honestly very, very stressful. About a month into recording the record, it was a guitar day. So AJ was supposed to be tracking guitars. He didn't show up, and we got really concerned. He ended up attempting to take his life. I think the stress had just become too much. And if there's anyone in the band that I'm closest to, it's AJ. So that, I mean, that's one of my best friends. So obviously it was a very dark, hard time. We had a crew with us that was filming the studio sessions up until that point, and honestly things just obviously got dark for a minute, and so we kind of just stopped that, and I don't think any of that footage will ever really surface. Again, you know, that's his story, and he has tweeted about it. I don't feel like it's really my place to dive into it. I'm just glad that he is okay and that he's a trooper, because he ended up being okay. He ended up checking himself into a rehabilitation facility for a week. And then after that week, got out and finished the entire record. Obviously that weighed really heavy on everyone. On top of that, there was the fires in California. And so while we were making the record, literally like streets next door while I'm tracking drums are like burning down. There was a point where all of our hard drives would have been completely engulfed in flames with all our music on it that we had been working on, because Howard Benson's house was about to be engulfed by flames. And luckily, like, it got put out right before it hit his section in the neighborhood. But it was intense, man. It was a lot on top of everything else that was already going on, and just the pressure of making a record to begin with, but not only making a record, but making our third record when we feel like our second record didn't even really live up to what we wanted it to. It was just a lot, and we do hold ourselves to this really high standard sometimes, which I think is good, but also mentally can just be a lot, man. And obviously here we are, you know, months later, playing shows. We made it out the other side, and I think we're a lot stronger for it. I think we learned a lot. Yeah, I don't know that there will ever be a time where making an Issues record isn't completely emotionally exhausting for any of us. But I know how dramatic that sounds. I'm fully aware how ridiculous it sounds, but it just kind of is what it is. But at the end of the day, the music that we made and everything that came out of it is so good. At least I think so. Genuinely, I really do. Like, I love the record. So I don't know. It all happened because it needed to happen, and the record I love it. It's great. Where do you want this album to take you? That's a good one. Good one to end on too. I would love to see this record do really well. You know, we put a lot of ourselves into it. We put a lot of time into it, put a lot of emotion into it, you know, everything that usually is the recipe for a great record. I think in the past, you know, you've seen us tour with bands like Bring Me the Horizon and then turn around and do a tour with All Time Low. So we are pretty diverse, and I hope that continues to grow. I'd love to see it expand outside of the rock bubble though. I'd love to keep up with that mentality and keep pushing the boundaries and see, you know, what weird tours we can get on. I usually do think we are kind of the black sheep on a tour, but I think usually we excel in that. I think we've just gotten comfortable with that being the case. I'd love to play festivals like Coachella. I'd love to start like integrating our sound and this new direction and our new record into more than just rock music, because I genuinely think we can. And I think, you know, that's something that we're all passionate about. I'm just excited, man. Like, hopefully I watch this video in like a year or two and I look back and I'm just as stoked as I am today. But at the end of the day, if the record doesn't do as well as I think it will, or hope it does, then honestly I can tell you that I love the record. I truly, truly love, and will look back in like 20, 30 years, and that will be like a pinnacle for Issues, I think. I hope you guys like it as much as I do, and I look forward to seeing your reactions whenever you do finally get to hear it. No, there's not a release date yet, but you will know something soonish. You're gonna be hearing some more singles anyway, so keep an eye out. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions in the comments. I'll be scrolling through, so appreciate y'all, and hope you have a good one.